Mike Grier continues to keep us on our toes, this time sending Fabian Zetterlund to the Ottawa Senators.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker of the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen, proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're reacting to all the big news from the NHL trade deadline as the Sharks continue to strip this thing down to the bare bones. We're going to talk about Fabian Zetterlund getting traded. Why? And what the Sharks got back in Ostapchuk. Luke Kunin going to the Columbus Blue Jackets. And now what? What do we do after that? So before actually we get into all that, do want to let you guys know today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So Fabian Zetterlund to the Ottawa Senators. And I know the reaction right now is why would Mike Grier do that? Fabian Zetterlund looks like was well on his way to be a multi-20 goal scorer. You got him as part of the Timo Meier trade. Felt like a positive piece for the San Jose Sharks and what you were going to be doing with it. And apparently Mike Grier felt this was the right move, right? So the trade, just as a reminder, if I'm sure you've seen it, but Fabian Zetterlund, Tristan Robbins, a 4th-round pick to the Ottawa Senators for Zack Ostapchuk, old friend Noah Gregor, and a 2025 2nd-round pick. So with Zetterlund, right, who was an RFA with arbitration rights, and it sounded like, and Shang Peng reported this, it sounded like there was contract negotiations between the two. The Sharks sent, an offer. Zetterlund and his agency had a counteroffer. Zetterlund gets traded. So my guess is they weren't close on a contract. I know it's frustrating, especially for a team like the San Jose Sharks who have a bajillion dollars in cap money, right? Now they don't really have anybody to re-sign this offseason, like no major contracts. Zetterlund was like the major contract. The Sharks, they're like Mike Grier is building around William Eklund, Macklin Celebrini, and Will Smith. And what these guys are going to potentially do, right? And Zetterlund, who is 25, I guess he just didn't fit the picture of what Mike Grier is trying to build here. And I get the frustration. I get it. Zetterlund, like, super fun Shark, had some great moments, and it felt like a piece that you were going to be able to build around. Apparently not. What's rule number 1 of a rebuild, kids? Don't get attached. So I get it, man. I believe me, my mentions are on fire right now. People are frustrated. I get the frustration. The Sharks keep selling, where you've lost Zetterlund, you lost Wallman in, less than a 24-hour span. I'm just going to continue. I'm going to continue to trust Mike Grier and his plan here and what he is going to do, right? And the Sharks now have a bajillion picks in this year's draft. And I know this year's draft isn't great. I continue to think he's got something up his sleeve. And we probably won't know until this summer. what that is. But I 100% get it, right? It's frustrating. You grow attached to these players, right? And you see the future of, oh man, Zetterlund, like continuing, what he brings and like what he does for the Sharks. And of course, Zetterlund and Eklund were best friends, and like you get all that. I totally get all that. But Mike Grier has shown time and time again, he's going to do what he thinks is right for the direction of the long-term future of the franchise, right? That sustainable success that we are after. And apparently he didn't think Zetterlund was going to be a long-term piece. And I think for Zetterlund, right, who's been playing second line minutes, kind of first or second line minutes, long term, did you think Zetterlund was going to be a top 6 player for the Sharks? Maybe, but most likely not, right? Was probably going to settle in on a third line. And was he going to continue to be as effective on the third line with less minutes? Maybe, maybe not. And, I think that's the question Mike Grier kind of wrestled with, especially with whatever the contractor cost is going to be for Zetterlund. Does this guy fit in as what we projected, what will most likely be a third line player for us at whatever cost this is? So, and apparently that answer is no. So, as for Tristan Robbins, like I think the writing was on the wall for him as a guy who I had a lot of hope for. I thought Tristan Robbins was going to be a good NHL player. It seemed like he stagnated, was hurt. I think the injury last year really put him behind the 8 ball. And we talked about, seeing some of these 2020 guys as they continue to kind of, like as we get further and further away from that class, you're going to start to see some of these guys moved. And I think for the Sharks, right, Tristan Robbins, who even was struggling to get playing time on the Barracuda. Yes, you swapped him out for old friend Noah Gregor, who's basically just going to be a warm body for the rest of the season for the San Jose Sharks. That way they can have some sort of a lineup. Like it's fine. Noah Gregor's Noah Gregor. There's your Luke Kunin replacement. You just brought back Noah Gregor. So I do feel like this is a move for the Sharks as they continue to look to the future, right? Because now you have multiple second round picks. You have your own. You have 2 first round picks in this draft, and I still we'll talk about kind of what's next. But I still think Mike Grier is going to. He's been in asset gathering mode, and he is going to be a player who I think he's going to be really aggressive this offseason, utilizing those picks for something else. So we got plenty of time all summer to speculate what that's going to be. But yeah, I get it, man. Especially with the vibes and everything that we've seen from San Jose, and just, especially this coming out of the Four Nations break, how well this team had been playing. Zetterlund playing on the second line with Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini. Like you felt the vibes. You felt like this team was heading in the right direction. But again, like Mike Grier said, he's not going to rush this process. And I feel like Zetterlund, especially with the age, and again, we don't know the contract or what was offered. We're just kind of speculating here. I guess that Grier just felt like it wasn't going to be a long-term fit and what the Sharks are going to do. So we'll always have the Lund line, or William Macklin, the last man standing, the Lund line. We'll always have the Lund line and kind of what that, that was and kind of what that meant the last 2 seasons with Granlund and Zetterlund. But we are 100. We're looking forward and trying to, again, sustainable success. So we're going to talk about Ostapchuk and what he brings, look at his draft profile, and why I think Mike Grier made this move. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. There's no better place to get on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or just want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Maybe you like watching Luka and Bron do cool things and want to maybe combine those 2 points together in a certain game and see if they maybe hit. Or if you're like me, you like watching Steph Curry do Steph Curry things, which is great. Nothing better than the NBA when Curry is hot. And if you win, you get paid instantly with FanDuel. Their app is super easy to use. And right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, before we get to Ostapchuk and kind of what he's expected to bring to the San Jose Sharks, do want to, of course, thank you guys for making the Locked On Sharks your first or potentially second listen of the day right now as we're doing trade reactions. If you haven't yet, perfect time to subscribe, especially on YouTube. We're really close to 4,000 subscribers. Trying to hit that before the end of the weekend. Or if you're listening on wherever you get podcasts, make sure you're hitting the subscribe. Make sure you leave a review. All that great stuff. It definitely helps out the algorithm as we continue to try to grow the Locked On Sharks brand. So, Zack Ostapchuk. Former second-round pick back in the 2021 second round, 39th overall by the Ottawa Senators. Left-handed forward, 6'3", 6'4", depends on where you look, 205 pounds, 21, doesn't turn 22 until after the season, and end of May he turns 22. Former Vancouver Giant, so he played in the WHL, was actually the captain of the Vancouver Giants, then got traded in his last season of WHL, got traded to the Winnipeg Ice, who are now the Wenatchee something or other. Last season in the WHL, this 22-23, had in his time with the Giants, had 29 points in 21 games, including 10 goals and 19 assists. After getting traded to the Winnipeg Ice, had 38 points in 34 games, including 21 goals and 17 assists. And then the playoffs put up 15 points and 18 assists. Also played for Canada in the World Juniors, where he had 3 points in 7 games as well from the 22-23 season. 23-24, so last season, he makes his NHL debut, spends most of the season with the Senators, where he played 7 games in the NHL with the Belleville Senators, had 28 points in 69 games, so 17 goals, 11 assists. Then also had 2 points in the playoffs for them as well. This season has spent most of the year with the Sens, as the Senators have definitely dealing with some injuries, right? He's been kind of that first man up for them, a guy dealing with as they deal with some injuries. So let's dig into his numbers a little bit more here. So like I said, big boy, he does have 2 years left on his ELC. So it's this year and next year, and he'll be an RFA of that. So you're cost controlled for the next several years. He's played 43 games. I know, like, if you look at the point, because everyone's like, well, he's only scored 4 points in 43 games. Okay. 20 shots on goal. He's playing 9:20 a night. 9 minutes and 20 seconds a night. Corsi for 45.90, goals for 31.58%. So I understand, right? If you just look at the production, you're like, well, why would you trade a guy who scored 4 points for this other guy? I totally get it. He's also 21, and he should be spending the entire season with the AHL. Like, this is one of those things where he's being asked to play up in the NHL because the franchise needs him to do so. He should be kind of spending his whole season in the AHL, playing in the AHL, playing big minutes there. So I get, like, I'm not ready to make a snap judgment on a player based on his production in this time. In the AHL, you see the production. 15 games, he just had 2 goals, 11 assists, 31 shots on goal. So you are seeing, kind of close to a point per game in the AHL as a 21-year-old. Again, he's 21. Going back to his draft profile and looking at kind of some of his scouting reports, so Elite Prospects says some NHL team could snag him in the second round. It'd be hard to meet the puck with much derision. It's just the nature of this draft. And Ostapchuk's unusual toolkit. He's more quick than refined. Ostapchuk's skating could reach NHL average with continued development. Talk about his ankle inflections and all that fun stuff. They do say, though, Ostapchuk finds open ice separation with WHL offenders. His hands are obvious strength, pushing his top hand off his hip for increased range of control, using lane deception to beat defenders, and showing backhand touch even when in motion. Preference for passing sees Ostapchuk try to step his teammates and score in areas with backhand and look-off forecheck passes, but his completion rate is low because he doesn't scan in advance. Okay, so maybe the hockey IQ isn't quite there, and it's a notable lack of creativity in Ostapchuk's game. But when it comes to projectable mentality with a puck on his stick, he wants to get to the net. His puck in front handling instead of across from the hips makes him vulnerable to poke checks, forcing him to go to the perimeter instead of finding ways to get back inside. Most rushes boil down to Ostapchuk racing defenders to the net, and it's not a projectile way of generating offense. Even at the WH level, it's already limiting his effectiveness, but that same aggression makes him an enticing project. So without the puck, Ostapchuk uses energy over reads to break up plays. He's physical and occasionally he's extremely so, and grabs breakups using single variable situations like an even numbered back check. He's mostly NHL average tools, lacking creativity and game-wide inefficiency. Ostapchuk isn't a high probability bet on paper, but his continued skill development that leverages his handling and passing, Ostapchuk can become a third-line forward at the NHL level. So, yes, while Zetterlund is a better player right now and maybe even projects to be a better player, I get it. I still think, like, what the Sharks are trying to build here, maybe they feel Ostapchuk is a better fit for what they're trying to build, right? Of being a very good bottom 6 guy. Plus, you get a second round pick. So I think for the Sharks, like, Ostapchuk is a no-nonsense type of player, like straightforward, up and down. Kind of like Zetterlund's kind of some of that. I think Zetterlund definitely has more creativity and flash to his game, but Zetterlund's also like a straightforward type of player, right? Zetterlund's he definitely uses his speed, is straight to the net, uses his size well. Like Zetterlund, especially for Zetterlund, who is not the biggest of guys, but I think Ostapchuk can kind of fit the same role, and he also plays center. So this gives you a little bit of gives you a little bit of insurance with your third line center as well. So we'll see. Again, we have a long way to go in this rebuild. This thing isn't happening right now. So that's what Ostapchuk's bringing to the Sharks. So I get it. Zetterlund's a better player right now. And Zetterlund maybe projects to be a better player in the long run. But I think also Ostapchuk has been asked to play in the NHL when maybe he's not quite NHL ready and should be spending that year over developing in the AHL. So that way next year he can play in the NHL. Maybe that's it. And you think about Zetterlund, right, who played professional hockey in Europe and Sweden before coming to America, he definitely had a little bit more advances with his development because he played professionally. So I'm not ready to just write this trade off as a failure, right? And I think it's too premature, and especially we don't know what the second pick comes. Like if part of the second round pick turns into like something else, I think it's hard to trade it now. So we're going to talk about, I guess, Ostapchuk. I assume he's probably going to be playing kind of middle 6 for the Sharks right now, especially because they literally are they're running out of bodies at this moment. So I assume that's kind of going to be kind of where he sits right now. And maybe he goes back to the AHL to play, because he was on the AHL roster before the deadline. So I assume he'll probably do that. And then if the Sharks want him to go play on the Barracuda for the playoffs, they might do that as well. So we're going to talk about Luke Kunin to Columbus, fair value, and then kind of reassess where the Sharks are at and kind of the picks they have and who's left on the roster and all that good stuff here in just 1 second. All right, before we finish up, do of course want to thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. When you're done with this episode, make sure you guys go check out one of the other great shows here at the Locked On Network. Of course, you have Locked On Fantasy Hockey. You have Locked On NHL, which I will be on the Friday episode as well, talking about the NHL trade deadline as a whole, or any of the shows here in the Bay Area, of course. Locked On Niners, Locked On Warriors, Locked On A's, Locked On Giants. Plenty of stuff here at the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. Okay. Luke Kunin to the Columbus Blue Jackets for a 4th round pick. Perfectly cromulent trade for both teams. This is actually the St. Louis pick, so it's going to be a mid-round 4th round pick. Not that I don't think it really matters between the Columbus pick and the Blue Jackets pick. You'll probably be within 7 or 8 picks between the two, to be honest. But anyway, so Luke Kunin, I think, kind of like we talked about yesterday with Nico Sturm, very much a specific role. I think he'll play on the 4th line for the Blue Jackets. I think he got accidentally important at work with the Sharks because, especially last year, where they just didn't have any bodies and he had to play 2nd line center. But defensive specialist, right, who's going to play hard. He could forecheck. He's going to stick up for his teammates. Like, he's hard to play against. I think this is a perfectly fine deal for the Sharks, right, as they continue to gather assets and do stuff with it. So I'm not sure if this is actually the pick going back. We don't think we ever got clarification on which 4th round pick is going back. So this could actually be part of the Zetterlund trade, but it doesn't matter. They're 4th round picks. Again, like, teams can generate these mid to late round picks very easily just by moving down, or like it's really easy to kind of manipulate the board to gather more of these picks. So especially in a bad draft class that's not in the 2025 draft. So for Kunin, I think Kunin was probably, yes, plays hard, sticks up for his teammate, good guy in the locker room, et cetera, et cetera. But you're going to want to start to see some of these other guys making their impact here and getting a chance to play. And you wonder if Kunin was a little bit of a progress stopper when it came to that. And especially since you have Barclay Goodrow and Luke Kunin, it's a little bit of redundancy between those two guys. So I think for Mike Grier, he did well getting a 4th round pick that felt like the going rate for, again, a defensive specialist who's probably going to play like 10 minutes a night on the Columbus Blue Jackets. His role definitely got elevated with the Sharks because look at the Sharks' bottom 6, and especially last year, look at their middle 6 last year. So I'm that's perfectly fine with the trade. It is what it is. So I think to get something for it, you'll take it. You're getting something. Where are the Sharks at now? So looking at the roster here, just it's almost like you kind of need just a refresh of okay, who's here right now, because it's much different. Eklund, Wenberg, Toffoli, Celebrini, Smith, Graf, Delandria, Kostin, Grunstrom, Goodrow, Kovalenko, plus Noah Gregor in there as well, and Ostapchuk. So those are kind of your forwards right now. I assume Ostapchuk probably gets recalled to try to get some playing time here. The Sharks have a bajillion dollars in cap space. Defensively, here are the guys on the roster: Vlasic, Ferraro, Liljegren, Jan Ruda, who's hurt, Henry Thrun, who's hurt, Vincent Desharnais, who they just acquired from the Penguins, Shakir Mukhamadullin, I know Jack Thompson and Jimmy Schultz both got sent down to the Barracuda because I'm not sure. I don't think we've gotten the full list of everyone who's gotten down. As I'm recording this at like 1:45, it's 1:45 right now. So we don't have the full list of who's actually been sent down for the Barracuda. Just a reminder, they want to have players, like if you want players to be able to play in the Barracuda or in the AHL playoffs, they have to be on the roster by the trade deadline. So you see a lot of paper transactions where guys will be sent down and then immediately will get recalled back up. I assume Thompson gets recalled, and with Desharnais here, I think Jimmy Schultz will probably spend the rest of the season with the Barracuda. So for the goalies, you have Alexander Gorgiev, Georgi Romanov, and then we do know Askarov still skating, not ready to play for this weekend. Sharks did also re-sign Gabe Carrier, or he signed Gabe Carrier to a contract for the rest of the season. That gives them some more insurance. So that way, in case if Romanov also gets hurt, or if one of the Sharks goalies get hurt, it gives you a little bit more insurance to try in case you need to bring up an extra goal. Yeah, that's where we sit, at least with the roster right now. And just as a reminder, you can now bring up more than 23 players on your roster as long as you're cap compliant. The Sharks have $1 bajillion in cap space, so they should be good with that. Like, they don't have anybody, like, they can bring up, Bordelot and Cardwell or Gushin and whoever else they want to bring up. They can bring these guys up without having to worry about cap limit or roster limitations right now. So assume Threadnell will be back soon. Maybe Jan Root is back, and you're going to see some of these Barracuda guys get called up. That's why the Sharks went out of their way to try to add some Barracuda players here recently. So that's where we sit with the roster for picks. So the Sharks have 2 first-round picks this year, 2 second-round picks as well, a third-round pick, which was the part of the Colorado Avs, 3 fourth-round picks, a fifth-round pick, and a 7th-round pick. 2026, they have 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, no third-round picks, 2 fourths, and no 5th or 6th, and a 7th. Again, you can generate 5th and 6th round picks pretty easily. Like those late round picks, you can do that really easily. And then 2027, they have their own first. They have their own second. They don't have a third as part of the, I think that was the Tomas Hertl trade. So that is where we sit with picks. That's where the Sharks sit right now. They are, right? They have done a lot of stuff right now for the Sharks. So yeah, I get it. Between Wallman and Zetterlund, Mike Grier 6 trades in like 3 days. I am tired. So we'll be back to probably Monday. We'll be back Monday. Whatever happens over the weekend, as the Sharks now start a long homestand. They play the Islanders on Saturday night. There'll be a preview for that game on Saturday, probably around lunchtime, Pacific time. So make sure you guys check that out. We'll have a reaction to that, reaction to the Barracuda. Have a big weekend up in Abbotsford this weekend as they continue to, fight for a playoff spot. Plus, prospects, there's plenty of stuff coming up here at Locked On Sharks. We have a draft profile ready for early next week as well. One of the they're a player in the top of the draft that we're previewing. So make sure you guys are following along for that. If you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe. Thank you guys for following along with my coverage. Yeah, we did it, guys. We made it through another trade deadline. Buckle up. It's going to be some ugly hockey for the last 18 games. So, yeah. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Until Sunday night, sometime soon. Bye, friends.